Okay, today we have Eckhart talking about the real liberation of your true self. Because that way you can connect to the universal support and allow it to help you just very, very easy. So, for example, what he's saying, just look around you, look around and take a walk through your natural surroundings, the trees, the grass, the leaves on the trees. Really take your focus on the details around you, or just walk through between your buildings that are there. Walk from building to building and watch the sun reflecting in the window, or the rain dropping onto the rooftop or the street. Just really watch it. And that way you already leave the ego mind status or consciousness, and already step into connect to the universal consciousness, right? This other dimension, because it is this. What you can see and touch and feel is all this universal consciousness. And yes, it's within you, but you cannot really. The easiest thing is to sense it with your senses, which is outside of you sensing. You can also start touching your body. You can do the same thing. And look at your hand, your nails, in detail of each part of the consistence of your whole, of a part of your body. It's also doable like that. Okay, and now listen to Eckhart's wonderful speech about all of this.
You hear the sound of your steps on whatever it is, gravel, if there's a sound, or you sense the softness of the grass, and you look at the sky without labeling very much. You don't need to mentally call it what it is, what for. You know what it is without calling it what it is. You don't need to have a mental comment that says, oh, that's a lovely sky, I wonder if the weather's going to last. Well, you don't need that. And this is the discovery that you don't need that. When you need it, you have it. But if you want to tell somebody the weather forecast, you have it. But you don't need it. You perceive more deeply by not labeling. And that is the retreat from the mind. And then it becomes a true retreat. So you walk from point A to point B as in that sense of wonder. And then you sense there's not only then what you perceive through your senses, because after all, that is the surface reality. It's beautiful. But as you perceive the beautiful surface reality of multiplicity of life forms, you can also sense an underlying stillness or presence as yourself. I can sense it at this moment. At this moment, words come out of my mouth, but I can sense the place where these words originate. And they do not originate in my mind. My mind becomes an instrument for it. It formulates the words. But the words originate from a deeper place. And when you listen to these words, you can also listen to these words from that deeper place within yourself. And something within you responds, not in words, but it's like a recognition of what it is that I'm talking about. And so you can, as I speak from that deeper place of alert stillness, you can listen from that deeper place of alert stillness. And now that's a real retreat. Now it's become a retreat. So whether you are on a retreat depends, of course, on your state of consciousness. Let go of the usual self, which includes your life situation that you've left behind temporarily. Everybody has one. You have a certain life situation that's to do with where you live, who you live with, the job you have, your financial situation, even your health situation. It's all to do with your life situation. But you don't want to be a walking life situation, because then you have to juggle all these things in your mind to keep them going. What about this and what about that? And at least one area probably is problematic in your life. Whether it's your living situation, your home, whether it's your relationship situation or your marriage or whatever it is, or whether it's your financial situation or your job situation or your health situation, it's unlikely that there's not at least one that's quite problematic. And if for many of you it's more than one, there may be even some of you if all these are problematic. But do you want to walk around as a problematic sense of self? Not saying, I'm going to ignore all these problems and never take any more action for the rest of my life. No, it's not that. But when you don't need that, why be burdened by that? And right now, there's nothing you can do about any of it. So why not step out, transcend your life situation, and I use that term in the Power of Now, instead of being immersed and carrying around with you your life situation as a burden, a continuous burden, a burdensome sense of self. Instead of that, be the life. You are life. You're not just a life situation. You are life. You are an expression of the one life that manifests as the universe. Underlying the universe, there is the oneness of life. You are that one life that was there before the Big Bang, if there was a Big Bang. You are the one life, the one out of which the whole universe came, and not only out of which the whole universe came, out of which the whole universe continuously comes, continuously brings forth life, new forms. And you are that. And so, isn't that a much more satisfying way of being in this world than a walking, problematic life situation? You are life. So, and here, on this retreat, it's the recognition that you are a manifestation of the universe, of the consciousness that underlies the universe, and you are that universe experiencing yourself, or the universe experiencing itself. And you go, it's all too wonderful. And there's an innocence comes with that perception, like you've just arrived in this world. You're not applying the old labels of your mind. And if they do come occasionally, that's fine. You recognize them as a label, and then you say, okay, let's go. You look at a bird, and you see that incredible aliveness that's in the bird, the incredible energy that's in the bird when it goes past. And some birds just fly and fly. And where does that energy come from? And they seem to be enjoying themselves. It's not just, some scientists say everything is utilitarian. Now they are flying in order to find food, and then they're flying in order to find the mate. No, they're also flying because they love flying. I have observed eagles in British Columbia, where we are, the eagles, and you can see that they are there because they are in a state of joy. They're not looking for anything, because they can go around you a long, long time. What are they doing? They must be enjoying themselves. And they hardly ever, the wings of eagles hardly ever move. They fly totally effortlessly. They can be like this for 10-15 minutes, no movement, they go just like that. Imagine experiencing the universe as an eagle like that, high up. The incredible joy they must sense. So be in that joy. You also can be in that joy, the joy of consciousness. So you become conscious of your own consciousness when you sense that presence, the presence that underlies all sense perceptions. The I, the deeper I. And then you walk around the campus in a deep sense of enjoyment. So the enjoyment then has two levels to it. One is whatever you perceive through your senses. And then the deeper enjoyment is the presence that you sense, without which the universe would not perceive itself. You would not perceive. The deeper underlying presence. And knowing yourself as the deeper underlying presence is real joy and sense of aliveness. Happy is good too, if you like the word. There's a deeper, I'm talking about the deeper happiness. So, that's the retreat. Be the presence more than the person. If the person occasionally will reassert itself even here, and for a few minutes, you might be immersed in your life situation. Perhaps it happens when you check your emails, and so that your mind gets easily cluttered again, or you might even check Twitter, Facebook, what's happening, what are my friends doing, text messages coming in, more clutter for the mind. So, as much as possible, let go. And when you might sense withdrawal symptoms if you don't use these devices for a while, and you might sense it's almost like somebody who smokes or drinks and feels, I need another fix, I need another drink, I need another smoke, I need another email. There's a book that somebody wrote. It's called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which means the real Zen, which of Zen really means awakening, to be awake. The state of presence is Zen. Alert stillness is Zen. Zen mind, beginner's mind, means it's not an accumulation of knowledge that takes you to awakening. In fact, the beginner's mind is the mind that's still empty. It hasn't been filled yet. Now, of course, your mind has been filled by life. It cannot not have been filled. And yet, you don't need to be identified with all that stuff and confuse it with who you are. And so you can be a beginner again in that state of emptiness, which is also a state of fullness. And that is, it helps to be here because, as I said, I speak from that alert stillness. It's not the person that gives these talks. It's that's why I have a little book that says Stillness Speaks, which is almost a paradox. but that's how it is. So, living from there, that speaks, that gives the talk. Not the person doesn't give the talk, and the person doesn't listen to the talk. If you listen to this talk only as the person, it makes no sense whatsoever. Because if you listen to this talk only with the accumulation in your mind, it's, what is he talking about? And that was the case, for example, when a reviewer for Time magazine read A New Earth and said, what is this mumbo-jumbo? And that became the review in Time magazine. But we need to be compassionate. I hate Time magazine. And that was the same year when Time magazine declared Bush Man of the Year. Well, what do you expect? It's called Time. So, forgiveness. So if you are only here as the person, it doesn't make much sense. So and even if your mind tells you, I can't quite work out what it is he's talking about, of course you can't. It's not the mind that can understand it. You can only understand the essence of it by touching that in you that resonates with it. So if it feels good to sit here and listen, that means it's working. Because that means that in you that responds to it and is of the same is emerging. And that's all. It does not depend on increased intellectual understanding of spirituality. That may come as a byproduct occasionally here and there, but that is not what gets you there. So it's not based on intellectual understanding. In a way, it's almost the opposite of that. Have the courage to go into that place, rather than thinking you need to know everything, have the courage to embrace the state of not knowing. And that's the state when you walk around the campus and you perceive without needing to have some interpretation of what it is you're perceiving. So you don't know anymore. So you have the courage to embrace, inhabit, be the state of not knowing. In the same way, when I start giving a talk, I don't know what I'm going to talk about because I'm not giving the talk. I don't need to know. It would be a terrible burden if I had to know what I'm going to talk about. And so that is a wonder. And in that state of not knowing, there is a deeper knowing. That is not a conceptual knowing. There's a deeper knowing. It transcends conceptual knowing. And that is the place where wisdom, we have this beautiful word, wisdom, that is the place where wisdom arises. That is the place of wisdom, which is far deeper than intelligence. Many people are intelligent without a shred of wisdom, and that's a very dangerous condition. If humans develop and overdevelop the analytical mind and the ability of the analytical mind to do things without any wisdom, well, it's happening already, it has happened. They create havoc. And so those who are not in touch with that, just cultivating the mind is not only dangerous for the world, it's also dangerous for the individual, because ultimately it leads you to madness. So this is a great adventure, the adventure of consciousness, awakening to itself. And what could be more enjoyable than feeling that you are part of that? You are consciousness awakening through this particular short-lived form. You are the universe awakening. It's an evolutionary, an awakening of consciousness. You're not just a little person. You are something much deeper, and it's the awakening of the universe. And as a byproduct of that, your so-called life becomes actually a more pleasant experience. That is a byproduct of awakening. It gets easier, because it doesn't mean there are no stuff happening. Challenges continue to come at you. The universe is built in that way. That's how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have no more challenges in life. You are supposed to have many challenges, and it's through the challenges that awakening happens. After a lot of suffering, at first challenges produce more and more the pressure of suffering and the weight of suffering, and then awakening happens. Without the challenges that the life gives you, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. And they are not going to stop as you awaken spiritually, but the way in which you deal with them changes. And you begin to almost welcome them when they come, because you recognize that is an inevitable part of existence on this dimension, a necessary part. And of course it's already been expressed in this classical book, The Road Less Traveled, which starts with the famous sentence, "Life is difficult." Very profound statement, true. And the next sentence is, I don't know it literally anymore, but if you recognize that life is difficult, that it's in the nature of life to be difficult, then it's not difficult anymore. And so what does he mean? I knew immediately what he meant, so I never had to read the whole book. When you recognize, I just had to read the first paragraph. Yes, he got it. When you recognize that life is difficult, meaning that challenges are inseparable from being here in this world, and then you say, oh, and then you accept that life is difficult. Of course it's difficult, that's why it's life. So then suddenly the inner resistance when challenges come isn't there anymore. You no longer go, not enough, I can't take it anymore. Or you attack every challenge. Oh, I'm going to make it, I'm going to hurt. That's not pleasant, because you think they shouldn't be there. You regard things that happen as enemies. No, it comes a point of acceptance of, challenges come in many forms. It can be a very small challenge, like a little beetle crawling in your bed. That's very small. I had one last night. And then they grow bigger. But it's all fine. So you accept that that's in the nature of life, and then it's not that difficult anymore. It's only really difficult when you think, this should not be happening. Or you think, why is this happening to me? Why is it always me? Because everybody else seems to be okay. You look at them in the street and they will go, and they don't seem to have any problems. But if you look more closely, you realize, oh no, they have problems, lots, because they don't look that happy. They try to. In some countries they're better at hiding it. In the United States they're quite much better at saying, I'm fine. And if you go to Russia, they tell you the truth. They say, I'm not happy. Not everybody, but... So enjoy this particular part of the adventure of life, the awakening, and
Okay, I want to talk about this a little bit as well. Finally, at the end, so we are at the end now. Yes, from Eckhart's talk. It's really wonderful, and it's so true. How often did I ask myself, okay, I had all these incredible, wonderful awakening moments in my life where I felt so connected and everything. And then still there are things happening, triggering me, where I could get mad, and I do get mad, but I even get madder about it because I get mad. You know, as I was never awakened and all these things, I was not so aware of this status of being mad about something. But with this awareness, I'm even more aware of it, that it's happening, and it makes me even more. It amplifies it even. Huh? It doubles it. And when it happens, it's good that I'm aware of it, and I'm like thinking, what is going on here? And then what I do then, and that is really a big key that he doesn't talk about. Eckhart doesn't say that. But what I'm doing then is I watch the situation from a different level of my mind that is not connected to this situation. It's like a little shift that I'm doing. And I'm talking to myself with sentences like, it's funny because I'm still here, I will be here tomorrow, I was there yesterday, and I'm still the same form. So it doesn't really make any... it doesn't really matter. The fact that just caused that anger in me or something. Huh? Yeah, I have to be honest. For me, the only emotion that I still struggle with is a tempered anger. When someone is behaving like so, in a certain way, where I think, how egoistic, or how can he not, or she, well, most me, he, no, sometimes, both genders. But I work a lot with men, so but what I wanted to say is, the anger temper is what I'm still hopping on. I get trapped by that one still. But like I said, when I then go into a state, switch my consciousness, it's a little like zooming out. Sometimes when there are people there, it helps me a lot more, because then I look at this person, I take focus onto that person, away from my anger. I look at the person and I realize, okay, he's talking, he's being in his mood now, in a few seconds later, and he will be in a year the same. So to have that anger now, it doesn't make any sense. It's not sense. It has no meaning. It has no worth. It's a moment of a thousandth of a second, and that's it. I could just let it be, let it go, because it makes no influence, impact really on me, on my life, on my form. So let it just, yeah, I get that distance when I take that focus on watching a person that is not in that emotion, like me at that moment, then I can realize, okay, I can reflect. I could also decide to just stay the same, because if I'm angry now, or if I'm just in a normal mood, or in a happy mood, in a joyful mood, let's say, this is happy and joyful, it makes no impact on my next few minutes. So, and even it is worse, but that one it doesn't help me. If I say, oh, I should not be like that, because it will bring a negative side for the next situation, that doesn't help. So it's a lot better for me if I step back, thinking it does not make any influence anyhow how I feel now. Everything is rolling its way anyhow, and that what helps me to stop with anger. Realizing that the river flows still, and there is there's the power of my mood doesn't change anything, because in reality it's only the actions caused by emotions that make an influence or difference, that change your life, but not the mood itself. So take an action. Either you do something, you say something, or you just let it go because you feel that it is not important. It has no importance. I really understand that the importance is almost zero. If I zoom out of the importance level of my life, it is like 0.0000000 many zeros. I think you know what I mean. And that what helps. Zoom out. And it helps watching a person that is busy with doing something. Then you see that flow of passing time, space, and then you see that you can really feel the importance reaching back to the zero level meaning. I wanted to add that onto, and I hope you had a very wonderful time listening and you had very nice outcomes for you. And always remember what? Yes, you are the lottery win of your life. So enjoy it. Yes, I love the word enjoy. It has this silent but joyful, a little bit powerful, like the little like little light dots that fill your cells and implant a warm, glittering light into your cells that vibrate a little bit and give you a little shaky feeling, like almost when you have butterflies in your stomach, but just not as intense and overtaking your whole being. Just because then you lose all your awareness, you just focused on that feeling. I mean the less strong one, the more awareness filled feeling. Yeah. Okay. Have a wonderful day.